The majority of human beings in the world today cannot take their basic needs for granted. Food. There's plenty of it in North America. Hungry people have always touched the hearts of the Mennonite family. Many of their own forebears were once homeless and hungry refugees. Their response has been to reach out a hand with practical help, to do something concrete,
Cut myself.
to act as well as believe,
No, not bad. It's like that by accident.
to share some of their abundance and so fulfill the law of Christ. The MCC meat canning unit may be in Henderson, Nebraska today, but tomorrow it could be with another community in Kansas, Illinois, or Virginia. It's a way to give your hungry neighbor somewhere in this shrinking world of ours a helping hand. As various as the kinds of Mennonites and brethren in Christ may be, they work together when it comes to helping people in trouble. It's like a spiritual instinct. For 4.5 centuries, they've done it as a family. And for the last 60 years across North America, they've done it through the Mennonite Central Committee, MCC. In the 1950s, MCC meant PACs to many Europeans, a program sending young American Mennonites to help their spiritual cousins rebuild after World War II. MCC itself was born in a time of violent revolution, when starving Mennonites in Russia had called out, "Lend us a hand." Help came quickly in the form of food, clothing, and tractors from North America, acknowledged by a hand-lettered certificate. But help came too in the form of people, one of whom, Clayton Kratz of Pennsylvania, gave his life in trying to lend a hand. Now the grandchildren of those hungry Mennonites live at peace in North America, as here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. But they carry on the work in a new age when the cup of cold water may mean more than food and clothing. Today it takes the form of help in development of third world communities.
Melva Lipke, our receptionist.
Good morning, it's nice to meet you.
That's our,
People do not live by bread alone.
they make those in Bangladesh. We've got other things downstairs that you might be interested in. Sure.
To love peace and pursue it, but not to forget its source in the sacrificial love of Christ. To start from that point and keep that perspective, that is the special note of MCC. To clothe the shivering refugee, to bind up the wounds of conflict, and to be inventive in practical ways of helping our disadvantaged neighbors to create and find markets for the products of their own hands and cultures, whether in the Philippines, Manitoba, Africa, Colombia, or Haiti. To have a sense, though you may live in Ontario, of our world as a global neighborhood.
If they couldn't come in here anymore.
For example, we have over here in Bolivia, we have Phil Bender, who's one of our Ontario people. He's serving in agricultural development here. In Africa, well, we have Bruno and Lois Berg, who are down here in...
You may live in Manitoba, but if you have a daughter, Judy Coop, as an MCC nurse in Bolivia, a part of yourself is there too, and a part of your community. Because by sending Judy, you're lending your Bolivian neighbors a hand and confessing your faith.
So we want to be in prayer.
Or you may live in Virginia and be members of the Zion Mennonite Church and have a member like Sue Yoder, a teacher of nursing at Eastern Mennonite College.
Cycles or horses, which sounds really exciting to me, you know. It doesn't scare me as far as thinking of going or traveling alone. In fact, I don't know if I've told you about Larry's job. Larry's not taking an assignment, at least initially. he'll be home with the boys, and there's probably ways that Larry will be involved informally in agriculture, recreation, mechanics, and he's going with the idea that he too wants to become involved in the culture and the life of the people.
Stu and I have always wanted to go overseas. At home, when I was younger, Mom and Dad always did emphasize service. Not necessarily overseas, but just service to people.
Taking your neighbors seriously when you want to give them your hand means that you have to prepare to understand their needs and their culture. You have to realize that the very help you try to give may create new problems. So MCC volunteers are intensively and respectfully oriented to the new cultural settings they will find.
Not compensating for increasing cost of inputs. The prices stay low. The Bolivian small farmer, he's small, he's poor, he's powerless. And they just negotiated with the government an agreement that the rice prices would go up. They'd get a bigger and a better shake. And I just heard now that the price maybe was a little lower than last year.
Then is when respect develops. Then is when trust develops. They will begin sharing detail with you.
I would consider that a real privilege to be allowed backstage within a particular culture.
Feelings behind a new culture, another religion, must be understood, not just disagreed with, if you're coming to lend a hand in the name of Christ. The viewpoint and inner attitudes of the new neighbors must be appreciated for what they are. Wendell Amstutz has learned to reach out a hand of fellowship. Wendell and his wife Karen have learned fruit tree growing from their Bolivian neighbors. What began as a term of MCC volunteer service led naturally into staying on as farmers, sharing in Bolivian life both spiritually and culturally. In the process, they've seen their North Americanness with new eyes.
Well, Ron, where'd you get the black eye?
Well, I bought a new horse for another ag volunteer, and I was taming it, teaching it how to, so you could touch its legs and stuff, and I was reaching down to lift its front leg up, and he kicked me with his back leg in the eye and stuff. So,
A South Dakota Lutheran farm boy, Ron Beets believes in Christ's way of peace. As an MCC agricultural volunteer, he helps Bolivian campesinos, simple farmers, get rubber-tired carts and wagons. This allows them to control the sale of their own produce and get fairer prices. A farmer with only one market is not free. Ron travels back the country roads to visit homesteaders trying to lift their families above a subsistence level. Working with Ron on the same frontier, a nurse and a teacher reach out to take as well as give. Karen Carnegie of Oregon and Deb Loganville of Kansas have a 3-hour walk still further into the country. Along a road not yet on the map, they travel to a new settlement where a community struggling to take shape is neglected even by the government, but where people need a hand.
I just think it'll be a good eye-opener for me to live in another culture and experience life the way other people in other parts of the world do.
When you volunteer to work under MCC, you come to realize that it's not just expertise that you're going to give in the name of Christ. You're going to give yourself, who you are, what your sense of family and community is.
Where do we live? You show us where. Okay. Where are we going to go? What's that called? Bolivia. Where is Katie at?
When you travel to a developing country, you find peasant farmers who are specific people with specific needs. They can't use a lot of theory. Dallas Steiner, whose family makes farm machinery in Orville, Ohio, tries to design simple tools that will work for the campesinos.
All these seminars and things, they call it appropriate technology, but I just call it a Steiner corn cracker without bearings.
A windmill made from metal drums wouldn't be too hard to make, and it should pump water when there's no other power. Then again, Roger Hooley of Oklahoma may decide it was just another charming MCC brainstorm. Volunteers learn that they have to keep learning out in the field.
This is a rice huller that I had seen in a newspaper, in MCC publication, and I thought it'd be a good idea for here. A new step that the campesino could use, a simple, cheap thing that would put him farther ahead.
A unique element in the Bolivian scene is the presence of conservative old colony Mennonites. MCC has hired them to make wagons better than anything the campesinos could otherwise get. Then MCC workers help the Bolivians to buy the wagons and cattle. This builds a relationship between two very different and sometimes suspicious groups of neighbors. Animal traction. It might seem a technological step backward, but it can be considerably more helpful than a hard-to-repair tractor in getting a campesino started on a small farm. The old way is called slash-and-burn farming, and it has its validity for a small, shifting plot. But with horses and a disc designed by Dallas Steiner and built by the old colony Mennonites, a farmer can lift his family above a bare existence. If he's to take responsibility for his own work, he needs training and machinery he can handle. In developing countries around the world, water supply is a never-ending concern. MCC workers have devised a well drilling process simple and affordable enough for peasant farmers to take over themselves and teach. Water means life and the possibility of community. Parrots instead of robins are what Phil Bender hears along the rural roads of Bolivia. Phil's MCC service as an agricultural advisor has its roots in the rolling Amish farmlands of Ontario. What he brings to the Bolivian campesino family is not just technique, but a hand of friendship. Give me your hand in Spanish is dame la mano. Give me your hand really means give me yourself. Let's learn together. Whether in Ontario or on fields recently cleared from the Bolivian lowland jungle, where the family of Asterio Salazar farms, a farmer is a farmer. And pigs is pigs.
Y los grandes, una mezcla de Salazar. Sí, presentando todo a PC8.
Short courses in medical care help the campesinos to help themselves and raise their own self-respect.
Miden más o menos 1 centímetro de largo.
Sharing knowledge is sharing power. It makes changes in the way communities work. Those in political power are sometimes suspicious of this kind of change, and even of MCC workers who help to cause it. A nurse from Pennsylvania shares her knowledge with Bolivian trainees called health promoters. These persons are chosen by their communities to take a basic nurses training. MCC's ideal is to work as a team if possible.
Están todos los huevos de las oncinarias.
Bueno, quiera seco. Bueno.
When Doug Lamp meets his school children, he has a feel for their outlook because he lives in their village in the same simple kind of house they have. On his way to school, he meets a pair of MCC nurses who have driven out from MCC headquarters to vaccinate the local babies. For decades now, MCC volunteers have been teaching school in developing countries around the world. Development requires new attitudes, giving people a sense that they too have a culture, with its own history and dignity. What food and water are to the body, ideas are to the mind. There's no development unless people learn something. And there is no dialogue unless the teacher learns too.
Ya, pasa. Tren, ¿no? Ya. Ya, ok. Empezando, necesitamos preguntarnos. I really sense that in the kids that I work with, they really have a desire to learn. And I think that one of the greatest disadvantages is that they don't often have the opportunity to learn. They don't have the opportunity to have material on hand to really spark their curiosity. And the simplest material really gets them excited. Just looking through old magazines or just making a puzzle or something. There's a need to cultivate that creativity that we often as North Americans take so much for granted in our childhood. One aspect of teaching that's difficult is realizing that in 3 or 4 years, these kids will be out of school and won't perhaps have another chance to get an education.
Getting mothers to believe that injections will prevent sickness is an important step, but it's just the beginning.
Caliente, cualquier cosa se quiere, pero en su brazo no. Y quizás va a dar un poco fiebre.
Gradually, their own health promoters can take on the responsibilities now modeled by an MCC nurse from Manitoba or an agricultural volunteer from Illinois, today serving as a nurse's aide. The permanent blessing of relief from measles, polio, and tuberculosis can only come after the community's consciousness has been raised and they take responsibility for their own health. Relief is temporary. Development has a future. Revolution, cultural and political, is a basic sign of our modern times. Bolivia is no exception. MCC workers around the world share the yearnings and the fears of the common people whose societies are in deep change or instability.
I walked the door and then already realized something's going on because the people were just crowding out of there, just storming out. And this one girl came to me and just says, "Did you come from the plaza?" And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "And nothing happened to you?" And I said, "Well, no, but, I said, something's going on, right?" And she said something about, "Yeah, the military," but I didn't understand the rest. I didn't want to either. I just wanted to get out of there. And I took off. I didn't start running until I saw those tanks and soldiers. When I was at Central de Salud, I already left the plaza. Then I heard guns, I heard some shooting, and then...
Persona o vehículo que se encuentre circulando a partir de la emisión del presente comunicado será considerado
military has taken over all of Bolivia.
Del segundo
They defended the democracy.
Where I live is just a recently settled area.
Ron and Mary Lee Diener of Kansas work with a group of homesteaders who are just getting their community organized. Trying to lend a hand in the name of Christ, they find their efforts complicated by shocking injustice.
Who would have been a big patron before, he came back claiming this land that the campesinos had settled legally, going through all the legal routes of the agrarian reform. And this guy came back claiming huge portions of the land, such as 12 farms. And now he's going on upriver and claiming half the community. And that would mean running all those people out, leaving them out in the street. We tried to act as a stabilizing factor somewhat and a unifying factor as best we could. We also came into town and checked out with Gerald Schenk and our team directors, trying to find out what kind of resources there were in town for the campesinos to get a hold of. And they gave us some good advice on that, and I checked out some of the resources and went back up. But the community leaders and different people, he's already threatened them, even with death. He's threatened to come in and kill them.
I think we felt a lot of helplessness at time of not knowing what to do next and what's going to come up next.
Now with this change in government, everything's up in the air again.
The women...
Jerry Shank of Pennsylvania is director of the MCC unit in Bolivia. Ken Lehman works in education.
That way, I didn't think about it when I talked to her.
What a mess.
Yeah, and the news out of La Paz isn't good either.
That they're picking up people left and right. A lot of other people are running off into the woods.
Yeah, they were saying out in the video the same thing. I talked with Ingrid Schultz yesterday, and she said that she saw more crying women and children than she's ever seen out there, and the men were all out. And even they didn't feel comfortable telling her where they went. You know, she's well known out there.
Yeah.
So they're scared.
Yeah.
And very few people showed up for the vaccinations. They just didn't want to come out of their house.
Oh.
This is by no means the first Bolivian coup Frida Schellenberg has lived through. Like MCC workers in other developing countries, she risks being picked up by the police if she violates a military curfew. So while waiting for this one to lift, she types out her 3-month report to MCC headquarters in North America.
Listen, while you're on, Reg, could you communicate to the personnel office that unless you hear from us further, just to go ahead and send the new volunteers? Yeah, everybody, including the odors. It's a little unstable here yet, but we think that they might as well come on and begin their language school.
For each of the MCC volunteers who serve in some 40 countries around the world, there comes that day when they first see their new community.
This is the statue of the Indian lady and her baby. What do you think, Zachary?
We're in Bolivia.
Hey, buddy.
Arriving at the local MCC headquarters, you find a version of the old Mennonite sense of family. The setting changes, the community of faith is maintained.
Oh, well, we're so glad.
That family feeling is a part of the message of reconciliation. Modeling a vital community is a way of doing Christianity, a way of uniting faith and action.
Welcome to Bolivia. Well, we had a 10-day orientation where about 30 adults and 15 children who are going out every which way come together. And I think the neat thing is that we all are in the same shoes. We're all getting ready to go to some unknown part, some unknown job. Especially the last day, it hit you that we were such a close group, and now we're spreading out all over the place. Bangladesh, Africa, some in Canada,
Tanzania,
North America,
Nigeria,
South America.
Botswana, Lesotho, Haiti.
for the last 14 years.
Dan Zer and his wife Elaine have a special assignment to help volunteers in the Bolivian unit keep a close tie between faith and action.
In a spiritual ministry with the workers here in Bolivia.
Byron Sue, it's good to have you here with us.
Another friend of the unit is Jaime Bravo, whose advice as a Christian is greatly respected.
I've seen a lot of new gringos, as they're called, come to your country. What do you think of this?
The thing of giving is to offer yourselves to the people and to the country.
Not long after they arrived in Santa Cruz to begin their language study, they learned that Zachary had a hernia. And so they had to get Zachary into the hospital in a strange city and, of course, a strange country, and go through this experience down there just soon after they got there. So they will really appreciate our prayers as a congregation. Be a good time, too, to send them a letter.
MCC's work, all done in the name of Christ, has preceded Mennonite missions in some 20 countries around the world. And so half a dozen small Christian fellowships have emerged in Bolivia too, and several mission boards have supplied workers to help in their nurture and growth. Development, after all, must ultimately have a spiritual base.
When you leave this morning, you will be getting a letter from Judy Coop. She says, I've been vaccinating against measles, polio, DPT, in 6 of my communities that I work in. Each MCC nurse is responsible for her own area. I am the only nurse that feels comfortable doing BCGs, which is the vaccine against TB, so I'm responsible for not only my area, but for all the others as well. That has kept me pretty busy, but I kind of enjoy that.
Long as my life shall teach me thy way, wherever my Lord has teach me thy way.
Bien, entonces ahora, hermanos, se sientan y vamos a cantar así, por favor.
MCC, imperfect and always needing to learn with the people it serves, is a way to reach out from the Mennonite family with the gospel's good news for the poor, deliverance for the captive, healing for the sick, in word and deed. Dame la mano. Give me your hand, and I'll give you mine. In the name of Christ.
Dame la